little peaceful music to begin us. Oh, well, good morning, everybody. I want to begin this morning by welcoming our Facebook family, and I know that we have a very special friend out there who's been joining us every Sunday, and she happens to be one of the ministers that we mentor, and that is Rev M.E. And M.E. used to stand for Mary Ellen, but now it stands for mental equivalent. And so, Rev M.E., I dedicate this talk to you today because I know that it is something that happened for you in our mentoring session, and I know that this will inspire you, my love. So, I also would welcome all those who are joining us on Facebook for them to fully realize and fully recognize that they are always welcome in this community, and that this is an amazing family here in this community, a family that comes together to grow with one another. And of course, we meet here at 50 Dudley Street in Cambridge, and for those of you who are available to do that, we certainly welcome you to join us in this community, because to feel the energy that's in this room is always so powerful and so amazing. And I feel privileged to be a co-founder and co-minister of this organization. I'm Rev G. Stewart, along with Reverend Ed Tansey, who are the founders and spiritual leaders of this community, this amazing and powerful community that we call the Science of Mind. And it is a philosophy. It's a philosophy of studying the nature of thought and the understanding of things, how thoughts become things. So that is what we do here. And so if you are inspired by our message, we certainly welcome you to go to cslboston.org, and we welcome you to really join in with the powerful idea that we call the Science of Mind, and see how this community might serve you. And if we are spiritually feeding you with our message, we welcome you to include us in your circulation and tithing practice by making a donation right there at cslboston.org. So the 2019 theme is spirituality in action. And this month we're talking about integrity. Oops, a little fast there. Well, we're talking about integrity, and we're not moving backwards. There we go. Okay. I am truthful in facts and motives, and that is our March theme for 2019. And of course, my talk today is actually our highest values. So what on earth does our highest values mean, right? That's always a good thing to ask. And since my talk is not moving for me this morning, I am going to do something magical with technology in order to allow all things to work in perfect order, which they do. And all we have to do is reach out to our universal technology devices in order to make things happen. Isn't that powerful, that we have the ability to absolutely lift ourselves up and move into that greater place of being? Because I really want to have my good points for you today. I really want to offer you those points. And since other technology is not working in such a glorious and wondrous way, I have other ways to make technology work for me. Isn't that awesome? All right. So Ernest Holmes tells us in this current slide here. We hope. Whoops. We went too fast.
I did.
What happened to my slide? Oh, the slide disappeared. All right then. It's technology testing me today. It is the divine presence saying, ha 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 ha. I got this. The universe is good. So Ernest Holmes tells us, when we understand the law, we learn to consciously embody what we wish, think of this only, and then we draw silently toward it. So it is that idea of it being drawn silently toward us, and we are drawn to it. So when we get into this place of thinking about that, this is why I want to, for myself, I want to choose a life of my highest values. Would you agree?
Yes.
I want to be at my highest values, because that's how I'm going to experience the good in my life. Now, when I say highest values, I mean choosing to be in integrity with love, truth, and goodness. Love, truth, and goodness. And if I am making decisions from that place, then I am living a life of service, am I not? Because I'm called to be of service to that. And that's the important thing. So today what I want to speak to you about is I want to speak to you about that in order to live my highest values, I must be whole and complete. Right? Secondly, what are my highest values? What are my highest values? Thirdly, I want to talk about lovingly committing to these values and trusting the power of love to carry us through in those values. And be an inspiration by being in service to those values. So those are the four things I want to talk to you today about. So let's begin with this first thought. Okay? So the first thought is to live by my highest values. I must be whole and complete. What do I mean by that? Let us begin with the understanding that we want to live in integrity to love, truth, and goodness, like I said before, and be in service to that. So if I know that, then it makes it easy for me. So the next thing to realize is that the word integrity, and Rev Ed spoke about this, I think it was March 3rd, in his talk. He spoke about that the Latin derivative of integrity is integre, which literally means whole and complete in Latin. Integre. So I need to be whole and complete to be in integrity. And most especially to my highest values. Right? So these are the important things to understand. So the inner work cannot be done if I continue to be looking at the world of form and effect around me. Would you agree?
Yes.
Because what does the world of form and effect do? Kind of sucks you in, doesn't it?
Yes.
You know, the media, the news, the advertisements, oh my God, all the beauty stuff. You poor women, you'll never be good enough. In the mind of the world, there's so much that you need to meet. And men too, you know. Hell, I don't look like half those guys that are all buffed out and all that. So we got it tough too, right, Chris? All right. So we need to get ourselves out of that outer space. And this is a really great slide here. Hopefully this one's up. Hopefully technology is working in my favor. Oh, well that was the slide I needed before, but thank you. We can go on to the next one. I put more space between it than I thought, I guess. All right, and the first piece. So Ernest Holmes tells us that the perspective of reality is lost when we view life from the range of a short experience. Right? And that's what I just said, the world of form, right? When I'm in that world of form, my perspective is skewed. I've lost my perspective. Rather, we are building on an eternal foundation, one that time cannot alter nor experience destroy. A true estimate of real values cannot be built on the shifting sands of time alone. We're talking about time and space when we're talking about the world of effect, right?
Right.
That's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about that world of effect. We cannot build an eternal foundation if we're on those shifting sands of time and space, right? So it's important to realize that we have to come from a much more grounded and powerful place. Yours and my true wholeness is found within. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
And that it is up to me to cultivate that wholeness and that completeness all the time. Right? And yes, the world of form tends to drag us out of it on a regular basis. At least for me. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me it likes to drag me out of it on a regular basis. And so I'm always working to pull myself back into that wholeness. The world of effect messes with our perception, doesn't it? You know, I can be so focused on this one thing and know that that's where I'm going and that's what I want. And they'll be like, you know, this is what Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon spoke of in his talk during the thing. And he was like talking about that one little thing back there. All of a sudden, that one little thing that has no real importance suddenly grabs all of your attention. Right? And you're stuck there. And the 90% you had going over here is now over here. Almost 100%. And then at some point you realize, wait a minute, is that where I want to be? No, it's not where I want to be. So I need to pull myself back, right? Sometimes we have to pull ourselves out of the world of form in order to get ourselves back into alignment. Would you agree? And how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we get ourselves back into alignment? Meditation, spiritual mind treatment, our form of prayer, all kinds of spiritual practices we have, right? Tons of them. Lots of opportunities to deepen and grow who we are. So now that I do this inner work, I do my spiritual mind practice, I get myself in alignment, that brings me to this understanding what my highest values are. What are my highest values? Now the interesting thing about our highest values is that the answers will usually come out of our spiritual practices. Have you ever noticed that? The ideas or the directions or whatever it is, you know, most especially visioning, which I think is just awesome because it usually opens up doors and thought. Although spiritual mind treatments for clarity and guidance can really get you, can really open up doors for you. Sometimes doors you wished you hadn't opened. It's like, really, God? This is where I gotta go? Right? But you know what? It's always going to be unfolding into an ever greater good. Always. No matter what the experience. And yes, it feels painful sometimes what we have to go through. But if we really realize, if I really stop and say, God is all there is, then I know that it has to be in everything. Even those things that seem uncomfortable, painful, difficult, I have to. You know, it's like that song, and I love this song. It's by Faith Rivera, and it talks about that you have to look for the miracles where there are none, and that's what it is. I have to look for the miracle in whatever it is that appears to be less than perfect, because if God is in all of it, then somehow there's God in that too, and that can be the test sometimes. That can be the thing that really weighs us down. So once I find this, and once I understand who I am, and I find that I think I'm living in integrity with love, with truth, with joy, with beauty, with power, with abundance, with peace, and infinitely in goodness, then I'm in a strong place, and a strong place of intuition to receive the messages that I need to receive. If I'm in that place, if I take the time to do my spiritual work, if I do my spiritual reading in the morning, if I do my prayer work in the morning, if I do my meditation in the morning, and sometimes during the day when things start to feel, you know, and it doesn't have to be a long time. A meditation can be just as much as 3 deep breaths. And I always call that's recognizing that triune nature of God, you know, spirit, soul, and body. But it grounds you in that moment. So it's a little trick you can use when you find yourself in that place of being out of alignment. It's something that you can use for that. So when I'm in this place, my intuition tells me what I am to be or what I am to do and how I am to appear in this world of effect. How I am to be a part of this world of effect as a spiritual being, right? On a spiritual journey. pure spirit expressing in human form. It is also to ask, what is my heart call? What is my heart calling me to do? Have I seen something in the world that calls to my heart? That I do my spiritual work and I say, how am I to show up in that? What is my place in that? And do I have a place in that? Because I may not have a place in it. I may just need to be in prayer about it because that's my place in it. Or I may need to be out and in action. But I do my spiritual work first to center myself and bring myself into that place. And then the last question I would ask when it comes to getting our highest values is, does it bring joy to me, and will it bring joy to others? Does it bring joy to me, and will it bring joy to others? If the answer is yes, then follow your heart. Follow your heart to your highest values. So now that we've determined what our highest values are, how to determine what our highest values are, it's now time to lovingly commit to these values. Because I can have these highest values, but if I don't commit to them, what's going to happen? Nothing. Ain't nothing going to happen until I commit to it, and I lovingly commit to it. Now when I say love, love to me is like the most powerful of all intentions that we could have. Would you agree?
Yes.
You know, and you know, I always say this up here that, you know, Ernest Holmes says, you know, love is the way, and law makes the way possible. So we got to be the love, because the law is automatic, right? The law is just doing its thing. It's like the servant of the soul. You know, it's like we just say, you know what? I'd like this, and make it so. You know, make it so number one, as John Picard used to say on Star Trek Next Generation, right? Make it so, number one. And that's what the law does. It makes it so. It brings it forward, brings it into form. Now here's a really wonderful quote. This is from Howard Thurman, and this is from The Inward Journey, which has been our book of the month that we've been looking at. Here is a mystery. If sweeping through the doors of my heart there moves continually a genuine love for you, it bypasses all your hate, all your indifference, and gets through to you at the center, at your center. You are powerless to do anything about it. That's how powerful love is. That's the love I'm speaking of. To make your commitment to your highest values, to your heart call in the world, is that kind of commitment. That knows that you can move through anything and that it will not affect you. And that takes a lot of commitment, does it not? Right? So I have to really know my values if I'm going to commit to that in that way. So I just thought that was such a powerful quote, because it's talking about how love transcends everything and transforms everything. And yeah, sometimes we don't get to see it or be there to see it. Thank you. But it doesn't matter. We just have to know that it is, right? We have to know what it is and that it is taking place. So, this power of love helps me to commit to these high values. I will then let these high values inform my decisions that I make. Would you agree? And my choices that I make. Because we're always at choice, right? We talk about this a lot. We're always at choice, and even if I don't make a choice, I made a choice, didn't I? Because I chose not to make a choice. So it's always working. It's always working. So it's realizing that it's up to me to make those decisions informed based upon my highest values. If something doesn't feel like you're in alignment with those highest values, then you need to stop and question, is this in alignment with my highest values? Because that's part of the commitment. So we keep ourselves at this high value energy because we want our energy to go into those high values and build them to their highest level in our life. Would you agree?
Yes.
And what I focus on, what I give my attention to, receives my energy. So this little thing we talked about over here that was annoying me, that drew my attention, I don't want to put my energy there. I'm going to draw my energy back and put it back on my highest value, on what is calling my heart. So it's important to be in that place. And when I give it all that energy, I become unstoppable. Have you ever noticed that about yourself? That when you are really in love with what you're doing, you are focused on it, you are going to get it, and there's nothing going to get in your way. I become unstoppable. In the same way that we heard in that quote, that it can push through all of that, no matter where you are, no matter where that individual is that you may be working with, you can push through all of that, and that love will touch them at the center of their being, whether they know it or not. And it doesn't matter whether they know it. We have the power to do that. And that's how we build on these powers. So now that we've committed to these values, we can focus on being an inspiration to these values. Be an inspiration of your values in the world. And this is, there's so many opportunities that we have in the world as to the different people that we can look to and find these amazing stories. I have so enjoyed the Science of Mind magazine this month because the stories that she has told are so powerful and so amazing that it's wonderful, and she puts this wonderful connection to it all that just makes it so powerful. And her father was a minister of religious science, so she was raised in this. I'm a little jealous. I'm a little jealous of her. She was raised in this stuff. So let's look at a couple of people. I know for myself there's a couple of people who really inspired me, and they left a huge impact on us this summer. And that would be Aretha Franklin and Senator John McCain, who interestingly enough on the same day had their activities going on around their funerals. At a time when there was a lot of dissension in the world, they were still making an impact to their highest values in transition. They had vibrated from this earth, and yet they were still pushing forward this message of love and inclusivity. I mean, with Aretha Franklin and her work with Martin Luther King, and her love, and her giving, of her time, of her talent. She sang for him, and of her money. She gave financially to him. She was clearly spiritually fed there. Would you agree?
Yes.
Clearly spiritually fed there. And John McCain. Senator John McCain and all that he did in the world. Powerful, powerful man. And through it all, Vietnam, what he did in Vietnam after all that had happened to him in the war, and his desire to go in and make a change to settle and bring about a peaceful connection between the Vietnamese and the U.S. in the way that he did, and was so loved when he went to that country, and all that he did for the underdog, how he stood up in the world in places where even on his last days he was standing up in the world, standing up saying, this is not right, and we can't do this. He was he crossed the aisle all the time. We need more of that in our world. But we all cross the aisle, not just in our politics, but in the world. We cross the aisle. Do you agree?
Yes.
So important. Now here's somebody you may or may not recognize. You might have to click it a couple of times. It was being little. There we go. Yes. Malala Yousafzai. I'm going to mess up her name. Malala Yousafzai. She won the Nobel Prize in 2014 for living in the integrity to her highest values. Now, in case you don't remember her, I just want to share these values with you, and I think these are very important. So, when she was 11 years old, she was actually doing a blog under the name of Gal Mackay, and that was for the BBC Radio, and it was about living under the Taliban at 11 years old. In October of 2012, she was boarding a bus to advocate for Pakistani girls' education when the Taliban shot her in the head and the neck. She was not expected to survive. And there she is, still with us. It was almost 2 years to the day when she was shot that she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize at 17 and was the youngest recipient to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She received that along with Kailash Satyarthi, which was another child activist, another child's rights activist. Malala had plans to be a doctor, but she's taken an interest in politics. And because of the violent assassination attempt on her life, the Pakistani government announced the creation of the very first right to education bill. To date, she has received over 40 awards and an honorary doctorate from King's College and a Grammy Award for her children's album, for the audiobook, I Am Malala, How One Girl Stood Up for Education and Changed the World. This is a girl who's on a path. I mean, it gives me God bumps just to hear what she's done. When Malala turned 18, she opened an all-girls school for Syrian refugee girls, and she asked leaders of the world to provide books, not bullets. Powerful. She's a powerful woman. She actually had an asteroid named after her in 2015. And on April of 2017, Malala became a UN Messenger of Peace. That girl who followed her values, her highest values, and does so to this day. You see what we can do in the world? We're not limited. We're not small. And it doesn't have to be as grand and glorious as some of these stories. Reaching out to just anyone in any way that we do is making a difference in the world. Would you agree? And so it is living in that place. So once you find your heart call and you commit your life to live in integrity to the high values of that heart call that you set, there are limitless possibilities to take you there. That's the thing to realize. You can be an inspiration in the world. It all begins within each one of us. It all begins within, does it not? And following into action what we receive within. You know, for myself, I always say ask and you will receive, and I have always received the answer, and I know for years in my life I ignored the call to be a minister, always making excuses, always saying there wasn't a good time, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. But when I got the calling the third time, I knew I had to move forward. And I did it. I followed every step I needed to follow to get to where I am today, because I knew that my heart call was to inspire, uplift, and love people to their highest level of being. That's what my heart call is. And I give that every time that I can speak with you on a Sunday morning or in a class or in any way that we come together as a community. And that's where the power is. And I ask you to find your heart call. And if you don't know what it is, let's sit together and let's talk about it. And find that heart call and go where you are called to be. That's what I ask you to do today. Are you willing to join me in that?
Yes.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste. Let us take this time in our spiritual mind treatment, the purpose of which to be in alignment with our highest value, to take this time to be present, to know this presence, all one, God, divine spirit, love. It is all one. That knowing, love. Being in that place of knowing is one, that one divine presence, love, individual expression, each light that shines in the highest value, understanding that value that I am perfect, I am whole, I am complete. I value love. I value kindness. I value peace. As I align myself with this goodness, with this peace, with this love, I am whole. As each and every one expresses this wholeness in their each individual way, the love, that love, divine love, the essence of all, peace, kindness, joy, that is expressed as divine right action. Each and every soul that steps into this place, knowing that it is spirit, that love of self, love of thyself, as I express the divine goodness that is spirit, essence, beauty, kindness, love. I breathe that in. I breathe that magnificence in. I am so, so thankful, grateful, being in the presence of this magnificence, of this beauty, as I express my highest values, knowing that each and every step that is taken is one in unfoldment of the perfect good, that perfect wholeness that each and every soul embodies. The wholeness, the oneness, that spiritual perfection. I am so grateful as I express these values, they just come forth as love. It is the truth. As the seed is planted and put into the law of perfect unfoldment. The seed is planted, divine perfection. It is already done. It is already done. Breathe as I breathe that in my knowing. I ask you to join me in saying, and so it is.
So let's join together in our affirmation. Let's read that together. I choose to live in integrity with my highest values. Do you do that?
Yep.
Let's do it again. I choose to live in integrity with my highest values. And that comes from Reverend Eunice Calfont, CSL Palm Springs, which is where Rev Ed and I met.
That's right. Yes.
And got married.
Dear to my heart.